Hello YouTubers, Rick Poulin here again with another motorcycle adventure trip. This time a revisit to Vinalhaven Island. Vinalhaven Island is about 17.3 miles off the coast where we left, departed the Rockland, Maine ferry service. And here we're spending the night at the Tradewinds Hotel in Rockland. Woke up to a beautiful sunrise that you see here. Before too long, we're on our way to the terminal. This is fairly early in the morning. Not a whole lot of vehicles on this trip. So we're pulling here into the ferry terminal to purchase our tickets. Get ready for the ride. We last visited Vinalhaven, I believe it was in June of 2018. I had a video posted for that trip. Liked the island so much that we decided we were going to revisit the island in 2019. This is September of 2019. I believe it was a Friday in late September when we decided to spend the weekend on Vinalhaven Island. But we're leaving in September instead of June, so the seas were a little rough on our journey out. So much so as we had to pretty much for most of the trip hold on to our bikes because the seas were choppy. And at one event, my buddy Charlie Meade here on his Goldwing came off the center stand, and thank goodness he had his kickstand down because the bike landed on his kickstand instead of crashing onto that cement floor there. So quite an adventure just on the trip out to Vinalhaven Island. Here we're getting ready to board. Usually motorcycles go first because we don't take up much room, but on this trip they decided to put us on last, so that meant we were the first to leave once we got to the island. Very raw day here, hardly any sun at all, and as you'll see throughout the video, for the first 10-15 minutes or so we had gray skies, and we did run into a little rain in the afternoon, but we're only there for the weekend, so you have to ride when you can, of course. After we ensured that our motorcycles were pretty much set behind the vehicle here, we getting ready to cast off to the island. So here we are underway, leaving Rockland Ferry Terminal. And again, about an hour and 15-minute trip on the ferry out to Vinalhaven Island. As I mentioned, the seas started getting pretty choppy a little bit later here. It was a very, very windy day. But nevertheless, a ride on a ferry is kind of fun. It did not rain while we were at sea. It rained a little afternoon, but here we are leaving the terminal, the ferry terminal on Vinalhaven, and we are headed to the Tidewater Motel, where we stayed the year prior. Nice little place, right on the water. The the water comes in, goes underneath the road, which is Main Street on Vinalhaven. So we thought that was pretty neat. I did have a chance to bring my Mavic Air drone on this trip. I did not have a drone on the last trip, so I managed to get that up in the air some nice photography a little bit later on in this clip. I don't believe that I flew the drone on the first day. Pretty windy out there. And I think I started filming with the drone maybe the second day we were there. But anyway, hope you're enjoying the video. This is on our way off the ferry to the Tidewater Hotel, where we met the Tidewater Motel proprietor. I think her name is Sarah. Very nice young lady. Took care of us while we were there. And she cooked a great breakfast the next morning. Got up to a nice breakfast, complimentary breakfast at the Tidewater. So I highly recommend this hotel if you're visiting Vinalhaven. This is right off Main Street, not even 10 minutes from the ferry terminal. And as you can see, we're pulling into the parking lot to check in.
I recognize you from 2 years ago. I don't know if you recognize me.
Well, you're wearing a helmet. So
Yes, well, I got the GoPro. I got the GoPro on. Now, you're Sarah, right?
I'm Sarah.
You're Sarah. Charlie Mead
Charlie.
and my friend Rick.
Yeah.
Well, you got a good
Welcome
grip
back.
there, Sarah. I'm not going to mess with you. I'm going to be a good boy.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice to see you.
How'd you ride over?
It was a little dodgy on the ferry there.
Yeah.
He had to, his bike came off the center stand, and thank goodness he had his kickstand down because it dropped right over there and it dropped right on the stand.
Jeez.
My bike shift was, it's normal anyway on the center stand to rock back and forth like that. It's just when the boat starts going like this.
Yeah.
That's when it... Once we were all checked in and assigned a room, we really didn't want to waste any time not seeing the island, so we, without even putting anything away, I think we got on our bikes, still fully packed for the trip, and made a decision that this time we'd go right to the northern tip of the island and check that out, since that was an area that we didn't get to see the first time. So here we are, headed back on Main Street toward the ferry terminal on Vinalhaven. There's one major road that goes around the whole island, and a lot of interesting things to see. Families swimming in quarries, things like that, which I believe I did capture on this outing. So what we're doing here is deciding the best route just to get to the north end of Vinalhaven, where we can get to the harbor. We're right across the harbor. We can see North Haven Island. The ferries do not operate between Vinalhaven and North Haven, but you can take the Rockland ferry either to Vinalhaven, which is what we did, or directly to North Haven. The way to get from North Haven to Vinalhaven, or vice versa, is to call, if you're on Vinalhaven, to call the North Haven terminal area, and hopefully someone's there to pick up the phone. The service is kind of cool because there is no ferry that goes between the two islands, but there are folks who own boats that will shuttle you back and forth. And here we are, just meeting up with some folks who were sort of headed into town. And I think they had told us that they had called a taxi or an Uber. I'm not sure if there's an Uber on Vinalhaven, but it was either a taxi or Uber service to get down to Main Street, where Main Street is pretty nice. The hotel where we stayed, the Tidewater, is right on Main Street downtown. It's the main part of the island. And of course there are grocery stores, restaurants, lounges. Very nice operation. So here we are pulling into the area that is approaching the harbor, where you can see North Haven across from Vinalhaven. A particular note is the cars parked here that take the boats to North Haven. And as we get closer to the water here, you will see the lone sheriff, who I believe resides on North Haven. They keep the police cruiser or police unit tucked away in the woods there on Vinalhaven, and you never know when he's going to come over and patrol the streets of Vinalhaven. So you always got to be minding your P's and Q's. You never know where the law will show up. This telephone pole with the phone you see is what you use to call the island that you see in the background there, North Haven, if you desire to get across. We did want to go across. We were interested in looking at the brewery that exists on North Haven. But we tried 4 or 5 times to try to get somebody to pick up on the other end, and we couldn't. So what we decided to do was do a little drone flying while we were at this part of the island. So we had some fun doing it. Again, it was a particularly gray, no sun day, but that didn't keep our spirits down at all. We went ahead and got the drone out and did our riding anyway. So here you see a little bit of what's going on the northern end of the island. And there's North Haven Island, just across the harbor. I think one of the things we enjoy about the island is it's pretty laid back. All the people on Vinalhaven that we found to be very, very friendly, very knowledgeable, willing to give us a tip here and there, tell us where to go to see things. And generally, it's just a great place to hang out. If you ever get a chance to visit Vinalhaven Island, I recommend it. I don't know how many people live on the island in the wintertime. Probably maybe a little less, or the island's pretty big, so there are a lot of families there, and maybe they all do stay on Vinalhaven in the wintertime. I'm not quite sure, but it definitely is a nice place to visit. I'm sure things are quite different in the winter than they are in the summer, but if you ever get a chance to go out, I highly recommend a visit to Vinalhaven Island. Okay, I think we did enough of the flying. We maybe had tried once more to try to get to North Haven to visit the brewery, but we were out of luck for that day, so bringing the drone in, packing everything away, and I think we'll just get back on our bikes and continue around the island. Here's one of several, or there's 2 or 3 quarries, rock quarries on the island. Very nice, each one of them. I believe this is maybe Lawson's Quarry. If any folks from Vinalhaven want to correct me, you can go ahead and leave a comment down below. But I think this is Lawson's Quarry. And while we were out there, I got a chance to put the drone back up in the air and do a little filming of the quarry. It's quite nice out here. Here you see a family enjoying the water, and I think I do remember hearing one of the girls saying it's so warm in here. So even in September, it's a nice little place to go for a swim. Bring the family and just enjoy an outing. Bring some food, have a little picnic, and do a little swimming. Just one of the many things that this beautiful island has to offer. So I think the sun came out a little bit here. I can't quite remember whether this was the next day. Probably was the next day, because I recall that it did rain a little bit, so we headed to the hotel and went across the street to the Nightingale, another great little restaurant. The owners are from North Haven Island, and we had a good meal there, lunch or dinner, I can't remember. and enjoyed some of the fine craft beers that they make over on North Haven and bring to Vinalhaven. So I believe this was the next day because I see the sun is out. So again, I had an opportunity to go to the parking lot, which is right next to the Tidewater where we stayed, and I put the drone up over the harbor. Here I'm next to the hotel, just taking some panning shots of Main Street downtown. Here you can see the bikes parked in the middle of the screen there next to the Tidewater. Just what a great view. Beautiful island, some great people, very friendly. Just a nice place to visit. In this panning shot here, you can see the hotel right there and the water running underneath the hotel out across under this Main Street to the other harbor on the other side. So at high tide and low tide, you can see the roaring water come in and pass each way through under the Main Street there. So it's kind of neat to watch. Need to mention here, as I'm bringing the drone in back to the parking lot where I launched it, that no birds were harmed during the filming of this session. All right, well, it was a quick 2 days. We're getting ready to head back to the ferry terminal for this short video clip of Vinalhaven Revisited. Thoroughly enjoyed our stay on the island. Of course, we did a lot more traveling and less filming than what you saw here. But again, if you get a chance to visit the island, please do so. It's a great place to go to and see what it's all about. Again, the people are very friendly, very hospitable, and a joy to be around. one thing about these motorcycle adventure trips is they all seem to go too fast. There never really is enough time to take it all in. And as you can see here, as we're motoring back onto the ferry to return to the mainland, Rockland, Maine, it's a very nice day. Very sunny, it's warm for late September, and just a little bit better day than the one coming out. But you can't always plan for the weather, and you gotta go when time permits, so you make the most of the situation you're in, that's for sure. The boat crew here was very helpful. They put chalks in front of the wheels and told us the ferry schedule and gave us some good tips on the way in and on the way out. Just very, very friendly crew. Just a joy to talk with them and listen to what they had to say, and very helpful to us.
Thank you. Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
You know, whether you're revisiting islands that you've been to or seeking new ones that are out there, there's hundreds of islands off Maine, as you know. And since we did not have a chance to see everything the first time, which is the main reason we revisited it and came back to it, so we could see a little bit more. It's always a great time, always something new. You never see the same thing twice, I don't believe. And there's always new and exciting things to check out and people to talk with, and just a great time to enjoy the summertime on a motorcycle. Well, here we finally reached Rockland, Maine, getting ready to depart the ferry. And I believe here it was maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So pretty much all we really did here is return back to the hotel area, the Tradewinds hotel area, where we noticed some nice restaurants along that strip there. So we headed back, decided we'd get something to eat before we'd head south to home. And there you can see the Tradewinds up on the screen there. And pretty much heading down the main street here in Rockland to look for a bite to eat. Well, thank you for enjoying this, well, hopefully you enjoyed it, a revisit to Vinalhaven Island. Thanks for watching.